Now during 2016, when I was already making videos on YouTube, my content was actually pretty rare. Due to Nintendo's failure with the Wii U and a quite strict approach to copyright law, a Zelda tuber or even Super Mario tuber was a rare thing. Heck, I can remember back in the day it was just me, Commonwealth Realm, Zeltec, Zelda Master, and some others, but that was it. However, nowadays you have loads of channels covering this stuff. But let's think back to 2016 for a second, before the Nintendo Switch was even revealed. It was a weird time to be a Nintendo fan, to be honest, because everyone made fun of you. However, then people started talking about this new console that Nintendo was making, a device that was going to change everything, and it was known as the Nintendo NX, and the internet was filled with rumors, screenshots, videos, and more covering this stuff. But in the end, it all disappeared when the Nintendo Switch was announced. But what happened to the NX? Was it just another name for the Switch? Did it look different in the beginning? Or was it a completely different project? Well, it was actually a very strange and interesting situation. So, let's look into all of this. But first, introducing my new store, Wily.gg, the place to buy your new games and get your hands on eShop cards for Nintendo as well as Xbox. And don't forget, use code Wily at checkout to save 10%. Now let's continue. Now this started around 7 years ago with Nintendo filing multiple patents that caught people's attention. It showed off certain concepts that were incredibly interesting to most people, something they didn't expect. And as far as I know, no other gaming company ever tried. Back then, it was already known as the Nintendo NX, and all of this new info showed that it would have a portable as well as handheld component in addition to being a home console. So really it was a lot and very revolutionary for the time. And all of this was even confirmed by Nintendo back in 2013 when Satoru Iwata said that the company's R&D groups for handheld and console gaming had merged into one division. So clearly they were quite confident. Now, one of the most well-known patents related to all the stuff they released in 2015 was a freeform screen application, which is normally used for flexible or quite unique screen formats. And if you take a look at the concept art from back then, you get what I mean. There are buttons and control sticks integrated into the actual screen itself, a concept that is still odd to this very day. And by the looks of it, Nintendo would also build menus around these sticks. A bit like the weapon wheel that is seen in games like Red Dead Redemption and Grand Theft Auto, but this time it appears around your joystick. In general, this design is full of tricks, and the key concept is around the screen displaying fully across the full real estate of the device. Now the two shoulder buttons and the sticks are the only obvious physical inputs, with virtual buttons and touch prompts being utilized in various conceptual ways. And the patent also states that motion control such as tilting can be utilized, in addition to stereoscopic 3D screen technology like we saw on the 3DS and new 3DS. But that wasn't all. A Wall Street Journal report also claimed that the NX would feature industry-leading chips that would put it in line with consoles like the Xbox One and PlayStation 4. And there was also a Japanese newspaper known as Nikkei Shimbun who reported that the device would feature an operating system based on Android. Now I know this is a lot to unpack, and believe me, that was the case back then as well. And clearly some of these turned out to be true, but a lot of them also make no sense at all. A Nintendo Switch doesn't run on Android, and the chipset inside of the device is from 2014 and 15, and was actually horribly outdated by the time Nintendo used it, and this hasn't gotten any better. Now this is where it all began. This is the first idea Nintendo came up with, and within no time people got to see this version of the device. Because in March of 2016, a handful of leaked images surfaced, suggesting that this device was in fact real. Back then it was stated that this was leaked by a developer who got his hands on an actual developer kit from Nintendo, and this was supposedly going to be the new Nintendo console, and as expected it looked exactly like the patents. Now the game would be displayed on the screen and all the functionality seen in the patents would be present as well, and there are even screenshots and videos of it running games to prove it is actually real and not a fake. Now at this point we had no idea how the whole handheld and home console elements would work, so a lot of things were still a mystery to us. But while a lot of people were incredibly excited, it turned out to be an elaborate fake. But the device you see here was very similar to the original plan of Nintendo. So heck, the Switch could have actually looked like this, but in the end it didn't. However, this isn't where the story ends, because after this some leaks ended up on the internet that were spot on, surprisingly enough. Eurogamer reported that the device would primarily be a handheld console that could connect to your television using a docking station, and the site also shed some light on the controller issue, claiming that the portable part of the device would feature detachable controllers, which you could then use to play games on your TV. And they also said that the NX will use cartridges instead of discs, wouldn't support backwards compatibility with older Nintendo games or consoles, and will be powered by Nvidia's Tegra mobile processors. Now, shockingly enough, because usually stuff like this is completely fake, all of this was true. Eurogamer was spot on, so I bet they got insider information. And even companies like Ubisoft were very excited about the console and clearly had a developer kit for it at this time. And so the people had a good idea of what the Switch actually was. And the old NX concept that I showed off at the beginning of this video was basically dead. It was clear that whatever they were working on in the beginning just didn't work, which makes sense because the idea was quite bizarre. They wanted to create a hybrid console from the beginning, and I bet at first, this small handheld would be separate from the console like the gamepad for the Wii U. But in the end, the handheld just got its own dock and detachable controllers, and that would solve everything. So clearly the Nintendo Switch evolved a lot, and surprisingly enough, traces of this can still be found in the final product, because in the end, the console was known as the NX for 19 months. However, Nintendo had never shown an NX logo. Well, until people actually found it, because game preservationist and translator Paul Kelly found an early prototype of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe that had been discovered on the prototype eMMC Odin chip, which was an early version of the Nintendo Switch board. Now sure, it is possible that this was some sort of elaborate hoax, but all the footage and screenshots shared from the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe prototype appear to be real, and it seems like the prototype has a build date of October 18th, 2016, 2 days before the Switch was officially announced with its new name. And on this board, this intro animation could be found. So it must have been a last-minute decision to change it from this NX to Switch, or they at least messed around with this little animation right before release. Now personally, I think Switch is a better name than NX, because it describes the product incredibly well, and clearly the Nintendo Switch changed a lot, but in the end we didn't get the original concept that we saw in those fake screenshots and patents. And personally, I think that was a good choice, although I'm still curious how it would have worked, especially after seeing that intro animation for the NX. But sadly enough, we will most likely never see it, because usually prototype consoles from Nintendo never see the light of day. Only in rare occasions they are shown to the public or found by some fan, but that's usually years later. So for now, we have to be satisfied with what we got. But not all mysteries out there are like this, because in some cases we get to see everything and know every detail, and I covered a couple of those on my channel as well, so go check them out. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I thought it would be an interesting topic to cover, the NX, you know, all the hype before the Switch. This weird little first version, you know. I don't know how many of you have seen it, I assume a lot, but I still thought it would be fun to cover. I hope you liked the video. Be sure to like, subscribe, click the bell button and all the good stuff. And then I'll see all of you in the next video, hopefully. Bye!